Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for another PS2 Dragon Ball Z game. This one I had seen once upon a time in a store that used to exist. It became FYE, and then it went out of business, and never came back. It turned into a sketchy mattress store that no one ever went to. Anyway, this particular game I used to see in this FYE and precursor movie store once upon a time when I was a kid, around the time that I was such a big, massive fan of Budokai 3. This game looked like it was the exact same game. I guess I assumed in my brain that it was just another, like a Japanese version of Budokai 3, or a new cover, or something like that. A new release of Budokai 3 without the Budokai 3 in the title. Anyway, this game is called Super Dragon Ball Z. And when you play the game, you'd realize it looks nothing and feels and plays nothing like a Budokai 3 or anything like it from that series, or even something like Tenkaichi. This is a very unique Dragon Ball Z game. The closest that comes to it in play style, probably, is Sagas, which I've never played. but what I've seen online of the kind of, you have kind of a small area, you run around mainly on the ground to go fist fight different people, even though that's more of a typical arcade game. This is like an arcade cabinet fighting game, like a Street Fighter you'd play at the movie theaters. It really was. Apparently this is actually a port from a cabinet in Japan of a Dragon Ball Z, I assume called Super Dragon Ball Z, onto a PS2 gaming console. And I think there was one I think it was also on GameCube, if not GameCube first, and then like a year later on the PS2. Anyway, this copy, I don't know when it released, but according to IMDb, the game itself is from 2006. It might have been earlier. I assume it would be earlier. I don't know if the graphics are better or identical to the original Japanese cabinet game. I don't know, but I will say this. I bought this game probably 2 months ago, and I played it all the way through for the story, which took 20 minutes. Yes, if you look at walkthroughs online, on YouTube, which there are not many of them, if you look at the walkthroughs on this game, on YouTube, they're about 30 minutes long. And I'll tell you this, it's not a hard game, depending on who you're fighting. If you're doing the tournament stuff, you're going to get your ass whooped. You have to beat 9 people with the same kind of health pretty much the entire time. That shit is not easy whatsoever. The control scheme is very different from a lot of DBZ games too, which really threw me for a loop. I decided to take... Excuse me, my allergies are really bad this week. I decided to take some time out and look at the skill list, the command list, right? And try to figure out how the fuck do I fight people. And that was not as easy as it looked. For example, you can turn Super Saiyan in the game. Even though Majin Buu's in the game, you can only go to like Super Saiyan 1 for Goku, Trunks, Vegeta, and I think somebody else. You can do that. However, you are going to be struggling to figure out how to do that. I literally have done it maybe 3 times the entire time I played this through. About 3 or 4 times I played this 30-minute long story mode, just to see what I could unlock. Every time you beat the story mode, you unlock Dragon Balls. Per level you beat, you can summon the dragon, Shenron, and do, a wish. And the wishes kind of suck ass, I'll be honest with you. They're not good like in Budokai 3, where you can get Breakthrough as an ability, get all of your powers and skills in one go. It's not like that, no. In this game, you get shitty things like, give me a change of colors for my clothing, which I think Fighters, or Fighter Z, whatever it's called for Nintendo Switch that I reviewed a while back, it seems like they took hints from this game to use that, which was stupid. By the way, you want to hear something really crazy? I know this came out in 2006, but apparently it was so popular in Japan, and apparently this game was not very well received here, which I understand why. The port from a cabinet game to this fighting style, the way this game plays, the joystick movements, the weird combinations you have to do to turn Super Saiyan, as basic as that should be. In other games, you literally hit like L1 and you turn Super Saiyan. All of these things that people really love about Dragon Ball Z games were not well received in the States. And I understand that, because as I played this the first time, I really fucking hated it, if I'm gonna be honest with you. But yesterday, I tried the tournament modes, I tried more character creations, which, by the way, when you start this game up, if you just jump right in the story, you really can't earn anything. Whereas you have to create a character on another particular menu, and when you do that, you actually earn, points. You earn, new attack points and all these things. Kind of like an RPG, but not as complicated as a lot of RPGs can be. or MMORPG, whatever that is. MMO? I don't know. Who gives a shit? Anyway, it's not super complex. You know what I mean? And it was fine. I enjoyed it. I have a good time. And the more that I played the story, fighting the computer and whatever, trying the tournaments out, I will never probably be able to beat the tournament. I'm not good at it at all. But the story mode itself, getting to fight the computer, I got to admit a couple of things. Number one, the tournaments have more challenge. No matter what your difficulty setting is, they have some challenge in that tournament mode because of the lack of health that you can maintain a lot of the time. When the computer decides it's going to beat your ass by using nothing but energy blasts constantly, you better be ready. You're about to get your ass whooped. And that's what happened to me constantly in this game. However, in the story mode, where you have I think it's maybe 7 missions or levels, whatever, that goes by super quick. You have 3 rounds. If you win 2, you win. That story mode, again, it's about 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, somewhere in there for me. And once I got used to the actual combinations on how to shoot a Kamehameha wave, it wasn't so bad. I had to relearn these things, because I just finished up Budokai Tenkaichi 1. I played Budokai Tenkaichi 3 maybe 6 months ago, and I reviewed that. Played Fighter Z. All of these games, except for the Tenkaichi games, obviously, as a series, have different types of styles of how to do certain things in the combos and whatever. So having to play this too, that I'd never played before, never picked up ever in my life until about 2 months ago, this one really fucked me up. It was tricky, and I gotta be honest with you, a lot of the fighting style, apparently they do tournaments now, in modern day. There was just a tournament 2 weeks ago I saw listed on YouTube, which was surprising to me. I keep seeing comments on videos about Super Dragon Ball Z talking about the modern day tournaments. People still do. The game's been around for almost 20 years on PS2, and people are still doing tournaments. It's crazy. But I get why. The fighting style is not as fluid as Budokai 3 or the Budokai games for that matter, mainly 2 and 3, or Infinite World, or Tenkaichi, any of those, or Z, Fighter Z, I mean. It's not as fluid as those types of fighting styles, or even what I remember of Raging Blasts back when I played that way when I was, I guess a long time ago, when it first came out. It's not fluid in that sense. It's not even really, to me, fluid for a PS2 fighting Dragon Ball Z game, compared to, again, the Budokai games that I really loved growing up. They were super fluid, the fighting was fantastic, it still typically is, and Tenkaichi I've gotten used to. I've beaten 2 of those 3 games, and I love it. I think it's really fluid a lot of the time on how they fight, how things move smoothly, how you can do certain things. In this game, a lot of the abilities you need to win fights, like the energy blast, like Kamehameha waves, all that stuff, it's really not as simple as you think it could be. I will say this, though. You can cheat very easily. If you hit the R2 button, you will charge your ass across that map and kick people in the face, and it's fantastic. And you can just spam the hell out of that and win every match you fight. You really could. You gotta be careful. The computer gets smart, and it realizes what you're doing sometimes. So it's kind of a smart AI. I will give it that. Compared to, the Kid Buu from Budokai 2, which is, to me, one of the hardest Dragon Ball Z bosses ever. This one is not stupid. You know what I mean? This one will fuck you up. Kind of like Fighter Z's computer AI stuff will. Now, the music. What's the music like? The music and the microphones they used to record a lot of this dialogue are very questionable. The music is good, it's just very compressed, if you will. And then the actual speaking, when hearing Sean Schemmel play Goku, which, yeah, I use the dub voices, that's the ones I grew up with, you know? You don't have, Bruce Faulkner music, and which is fine, I like the music we have in the game. It reminds me a little bit of, a kind of the earlier Budokai games, but not really. I mean, this is post-Budokai 3. This is all the way in Budokai Tenkaichi's year of release in 2006, This is a little bit more of that style of music, kind of the Japanese tournament-style music most of the time. But that recording for voices is very compressed. I don't know if it was, again, like somebody else had said on one of their videos, I don't know if it was a bad microphone or just they had to compress it to a certain file type to fit into a cabinet. I don't know. I don't know what it was. But a lot of the time when you hear speaking in these cabinet games like the movie theater, the bowling alley, whatever, my biggest memory that I ever had was the Terminator Salvation game where you had the big gun you had to shoot at the big screen. Fantastic game, by the way, if you haven't played that before. We still have one at our local bowling alley. I think a lot of people do, if I'm being honest with you. This game, with all of its flaws, the speaking isn't that great because of the recording quality or the compression or whatever it was. Now, I do want to compliment the art style, though. I noticed that every time I go into one of the story mode fights, they had like a white background with a picture of whatever the tournament or whatever fight I was about to be in, and then the picture of the villain in a very specific art style. And then it occurred to me, even though I've only really read the first volume of Dragon Ball, the original first ever story, I've read that, and I've read Dragon Ball Super, and I noticed that the covers of Dragon Ball Super look a lot like this. Apparently, this game took a lot more inspiration than most Dragon Ball games from the art of the manga, and I thought that was really fucking cool. That to me is really cool. The art style, as you look at the game more and more, the backgrounds, especially at the World Tournament, I really love that particular field. I mean, most people do for playing any of the Dragon Ball Z games, getting to fight there. But, like, actually seeing it, seeing how, like, the backgrounds can crumble, you can kick people through walls and shit, all of that being as destructible as it was, being designed the way it was by the art and the style, it looks really good. That's probably the best thing about the game. When you put everything that's flawed about it, like the gameplay and shit, to the side, the art style itself looks incredible. It really does. I'm not really impressed with even the people you can unlock in the game. Like, I looked at what the roster is fully. You can unlock characters as the game goes along, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think I'll ever be able to beat it. Apparently, you have to beat the tournament to unlock new characters, which I'm never going to be able to do that, so I gave up fairly quickly. I don't really care enough. The roster's not that great. You have, like, Mystic Gohan that you can unlock. You know what I mean? Other than that, Super Dragon Ball Z, do I really recommend it to anybody? I mean, I got my copy that was used for, like, $25. Honestly, I don't think the game is that good. It's above average now because I took out time to get used to the game and how it plays. And I got to admit, I like it more now than I did before when I played it for the first time a few months back when I bought it. It's a lot better now than it was then. But do I really recommend it to anybody? Do I recommend paying $25 for it? Maybe $20 at maximum. If I'm being honest with you. If you can find it for $20, that is as much as I would spend on this if I were you. If you're not a big Dragon Ball Z fan and you like fighting games, this might be right up your alley. If you like that traditional arcade feel, but not like, what's a good example? It's not like a side-scroller. It's like an actual, like, field that you have to walk around and move on. It looks fantastic compared to those types of games that came out in the 90s, the early 2000s, the mid-2000s like this. It looks great for a fighting game, and it looks great as a Dragon Ball Z art style. It's everything else, man. I just do not like the control scheme on this. I think it's a mess, just like the first Budokai Tenkaichi's control scheme that really wasn't handled as well as like Budokai Tenkaichi 3. But anyway, Super Dragon Ball Z, it's a big old miss in a lot of ways, but it has its positives, you know what I mean? There's a reason people are doing tournaments based around this game to this day. It's very well made, it's fun, it just has a lot of problems that weren't just centered around it being a PS2 game. There are problems that never happened to other Dragon Ball Z games. Like, for example, I love, as a matter of fact, the original Budokai game, and I would pick that over this any day of the week, because I love it so much. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, I don't know, but still. My last complaint I really have, I mentioned you can turn Super Saiyan, not Dragon Ball Z. You can turn Super Saiyan in the game, in a fight. But my biggest complaint about it is it's not like a permanent transformation. It's not like a not permanent thing where, like, if you get hit and you fall over, you transform back into base form Goku, Gohan, whoever. It's not even just that. You turn Super Saiyan, you have like 10 seconds or 15 seconds that you get to be Super Saiyan. You better make it count. And really, personally, that and the Kaioken form on Goku really aren't as powerful as they could be, or should be for that matter. It's kind of a shame. Because they're supposed to increase your abilities. I assume there's other finishers you can unlock because of turning Super Saiyan, but I never found them, as much as I tried. But the control scheme on how to do certain moves, again, was total bullshit. It took me forever to get Goku to go Super Saiyan. I never could do it in practice mode. It was always randomly in the middle of a fight. And that was annoying. Because just me, even if it doesn't help with the fighting ability or the amount of destruction I can do, it's still cool to see Super Saiyan Goku. And it's still cool as a transformation in the game. I like the way it looks. But still, all that being said, Super Dragon Ball Z will have its audience. I think if this sounds like your kind of thing, or you prefer the PS2 Dragon Ball Z games, check it out. It might be for you. You might like it. Do not go into this thinking it's going to be like Budokai or Tenkaichi or anything like that. Go into it expecting something that's like a better, more improved version of Dragon Ball Z's sagas. Because that's really what it is, in my opinion. I think Sagas came out after this, as a matter of fact. I could be wrong. But Sagas looks worse, feels worse from what I've seen. It just, the gameplay of that is a lot less engaging than this one is, even though this one's not the best. It's still more engaging than Sagas, from what I've seen of Sagas. But anyway, with all that being said, that's my opinion on Super Dragon Ball Z, the one game that I had eyeballed forever and never picked up until now. I'm glad I own it as a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm glad I got to make a video review on it. It's just, I wish it was better. I really wanted better for this game, but it's kind of disappointing all around to me. Me not being a big regular fighting game fan, and just being like a Budokai fan, or Tenkaichi fan, or a Fighter Z fan mainly. Being a fan of all of those things are not going to make you a fan of this one. Just understand that if you're going to pay out the $25 or so to pick up the game. Anyway, have you played Super Dragon Ball Z for PlayStation 2? What did you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Have a great weekend, and goodbye.